Hello, Healthy Children Project. My name is Lisa, and I'm a candidate for a faculty position there. Today I am making this video from my home in York, Pennsylvania, and I'm outside on my screened porch, and my dog is out in the fenced yard, and I hope she doesn't bark during this thing. But I'm going to do my best to do about a 10-minute video here. It might go a little longer. I'm trying to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes. And I am going to be explaining to you a tool that I use in my current role as a nurse-family partnership nurse, okay? But first, let me say a little bit about who I am and my experience. I've been working for 3 years for the Nurse-Family Partnership Program as a nurse home visitor. Prior to that, I worked at the WIC program as a lactation consultant for WIC, and before that, I was a peer counselor with WIC. I've done lactation consulting in the local hospital as PRN, and I have for 7 years been teaching breastfeeding classes in the community, including at the hospital, at a pregnancy care center. I teach in services at the community health center that houses the Nurse Family Partnership Program for doctors, nurses, and community health workers. And I do breastfeeding classes, a 4-hour breastfeeding class series at the local hospital for expectant couples. Okay, so that's my experience. It's been about 7 years of direct teaching. Before that, it was mostly one-on-one counseling. But my current role as a nurse family partnership nurse is my full-time job, and it's a different sort of job. So I want to explain something that we use to make our interventions with the client less ambiguous. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is a tool called the DANCE tool, and DANCE stands for Dyadic Assessment of Naturalistic Caregiver-Child Experiences. So when I first started working for NFP, I didn't know about the DANCE tool. I worked for a couple months before they sent me for training in this. And when I would go into the homes of the moms that were between 28 weeks pregnant and 2 years of their child's age, I would wonder, what exactly is it that I'm doing here in this home visit, right? Now, we have measured outcomes. It's an evidence-based program with measured outcomes, and one of the biggest outcomes that we're measuring is related to child development. So we really have a large portion of our time dedicated to teaching parenting skills. Some of the other things that we're measuring are related to self-sufficiency of the client, education goals, mental health, and pregnancy outcomes. But parenting and child development is a huge part of the Nurse Family Partnership Program. So this DANCE tool, when I went to training for this finally after working there for a few months, it was a week-long training that lasted 40 hours. And I felt much better and much more competent in my role after having gone to this training. So I'm going to explain to you what the DANCE tool is. As I said, it's the Dyadic Assessment of Naturalistic Caregiver-Child Experiences. It's a caregiver-child interaction measure that's developed by the Prevention Research Center for Family and Child Health at University of Colorado, Denver. And what we do is we use it like this. Throughout different time frames during that 2 years with that client, which include 1 to 3 months of the child's age, 8 to 10 months of the child's age, then 17 to 19, and then 21 to 23. Oh no, I'm wrong. 1 to 3 months, 8 to 10 months, 15 to 17 months, and then 21 to 23 months are the different time frames in that child's first 2 years where we do this DANCE assessment using this tool. So we go into the mother's home, and we have in mind the fact that today we want to do a DANCE assessment. We don't tell the mother that we're doing this, okay? This is just on our side. But what we do have the mother do is we have her engage in some kind of caregiving activity with her child. If she's not already doing something like feeding the baby baby food or bathing the baby or on the floor in tummy time, then we'll try to set something up in a way that's not going to cause the mom anxiety. We'll just ask her to put the baby on tummy time, and we'll observe her playing with her baby. The time frame is that we want this assessment to be an interaction that lasts between 5 minutes and 15 minutes, okay? And the assessment that we're doing is based on this particular visit and this particular activity, okay? So we're not thinking about this mom and all the other visits that we've seen her interact with the baby. We're saying this assessment is having to do with this visit right here, right now, okay? Now, the DANCE tool has 18 different areas of assessment that are separated into 4 different categories. The first category is emotional quality. Second is sensitivity and responsivity. Third is regulation. Fourth, promotion of developmental growth. So what I want to do for this video is to go down the different assessment pieces of the dance, tell you what they are, and then tell you how I might use this tool to develop a lesson for a mom who's scoring low in an area of the dance. Okay? So let me go through this. The emotional quality realm has 5 different areas of assessment. The first one is expressed positive affect. Did the mother that we're working with, did she express a positive affect in front of her child? Secondly, did her affect match the affect of her child? If her child was looking happy, did she also look happy? If her child was looking sad, did she bring her affect down to meet where that child is? Did she complement her child's affect? Thirdly, verbal quality. Is her verbal communication kind, respectful, cheerful? Right? So we're measuring these. And we're measuring these things in a percentage such as 70% of this 10 minutes, the mom did this. Or 50% of this 10 minutes, she had, she expressed positive affect. So we're measuring in a percentage. Okay, fourth in the emotional quality is response to distress. What percentage of this interaction did she respond to the baby when he showed distress? And then lastly in that area is negative comments about the child to others. And that's not measured in a percentage, that's measured in number of times. How many times did she say something negative about the child to others? Okay, next is the sensitivity and responsivity realm. We measure positioning in this area. So how is that mother positioned in relation to her child? Is her child are they facing each other? Does she see that child's facial expressions? Can she read his communication well with the way that she's positioned with her child? Next is visual engagement. Is her attention directed toward her child or toward a shared focal point of interest? Or is her visual engagement somewhere else? And what percentage? Third is pacing. The tempo of the caregiver-child interaction. Is it appropriate? Is it complementary to that child's needs? Or is she pacing too fast or too slow? Fourth is negative touch. And that one's scored as a number. How many times is she doing a negative touch toward her baby, being too rough with her child? And then lastly, in that sensitivity and responsivity realm is the area of non-intrusiveness. So the caregiver does not intrude upon the child's activity, emotional or physical space. So for our purposes, we're looking at something like the mom is she not grabbing toys from her baby, or kissing the baby when the baby's resisting, or being too close to the baby with too much energy when the baby's not complementing her energy. That would be intrusiveness. Okay. And then in the area of regulation, we measure responsiveness. Does the caregiver's response to the child's state, affect, and communication, is it supportive of the child's needs? Responsiveness is, in my opinion, the most important assessment piece out of the whole dance. Maybe I feel that way because of my lactation background and knowing the importance of responding to cues. But I really use this point a lot in my teaching of moms. I talk to them about responsiveness many times throughout the program and in many different, in a lot of different contexts. But I'll use the responsiveness assessment piece here to do a little lesson with you at the end of this video, okay? Next is limit setting. So is this mom setting limits with her child, or is her toddler just running wild, not knowing what the limits are? What percentage of time was the mom setting limits? And then completes interactions. Is this mom completing the interaction that she's having with her baby? Is she providing closure to that activity, or is she just jumping from one activity to the next, which can cause anxiety in that child? We want to measure in the area of completes interactions. And then lastly, in the area of promotion of developmental growth, we measure supports exploration. So is this mom supporting exploration for her child? Is her child allowed to explore his environment, or is he stuck in a playpen or in a chair? That's one area. Also, next is scaffolding. And scaffolding is a little complicated to explain. Does the caregiver attempt to provide support that promotes success beyond what the child is able to do on his or her own? So is she showing that child the next thing to do with that toy that he's playing with? For example, if he's playing with blocks and just throwing them around, does she show him that this block goes on top? Now this one. It could be as simple as they're reading a book and looking at a picture, and she shows him that turning the page allows him to see another picture. She's showing him what comes next in his play. That's scaffolding. And then verbal connectedness. Our program, NFP, is huge on verbal connectedness. We have our moms talking to their babies from the time that their baby's on skin to skin at birth, and then talking them through all the activities that they're doing, and talking to their baby as if their baby understands from the time their baby is tiny. And you can see that, the difference between moms who are in the NFP program. The WIC workers tell us that. They know which are the WIC participants or NFP clients because they see these moms talking so much to their babies in comparison to other moms. Okay, so verbal connectedness. And then praise, the area of praise. How many times did the mom praise the baby during that interaction? And that's in a number, not a percentage. And lastly, negative verbal content. How many times does she say some kind of criticizing thing to the child, or accusations or threats or something like that? And we do that in a number, not a percentage as well. Okay, so those are the 18 points of the dance, and as I said, they're separated into 4 different realms. And we have this little card to help us as a little cheat sheet. But after that visit, that we have this in our mind, we go out to our car, which is our office, and we use a sheet like this to score the different areas, percentage, as you can see. In fact, we just recently, in the past few months, finally went electronic at NFP, so these forms that we used to fill out by hand are now all on the computer, the little laptop, which has been very convenient and time-saving. But anyway, so we fill out this form, and we look for what areas of that dance assessment did this mom score the lowest in. And then whatever area it was that she scored the lowest in, that will be where we target our intervention. Okay? So, if my mom happened to score low in the area of responsiveness, then I, as her nurse, will leave that visit noting that, and I'll go to my office and I will prepare for my next visit with her a lesson related to the importance of responding to her baby early, frequently, appropriately, and when the baby shows a need. Okay? So how I will do that is I will pull a lesson from a book called Partners in Parenting Education. And the one I would in particular use for a mom who's scoring low in this area is one about the trust cycle. So the trust cycle is important to all relationships, not just mother-baby, but it works perfectly to show moms why responsiveness is important in parenting. So I would go to my next home visit with that mom, and I would ask her questions to start the visit, or to start that portion of the visit. Like, so tell me, for example, Sarah, tell me how you define trust. And she would tell me some ways that she knows that someone's trustworthy. How do you let people know that you're trustworthy? And with our program, we try to let the mom talk a lot more than we talk. So we do a lot of reflecting and summarizing and active listening, and it's called motivational interviewing. So I just throw out a question and then I let them talk, and I really just reflect back what they're saying to me. Also, I might ask her, why is it important to answer a baby's cries quickly? And maybe she doesn't know this, and perhaps she didn't know this, and that's why she scored low. I'll ask her, why do you think you need to wait for your baby to show a need before you respond? And while we're talking about this is a perfect opportunity for me to teach her about feeding cues and about nonverbal communication that babies use from very, very, very early on. And as a lactation consultant, I could really hone this into the whole concept of feeding on demand. So I'll teach her all about the different ways that babies shows us that they're hungry. Okay? So for example, we know that babies that are nursing will root on mom, right? They'll root around looking for a breast. They'll smack their lips, they'll be grunting, their body language will look uptight, right? They'll be tense. And I'll teach her all those different cues that show us that the baby's hungry. And then I'll talk to her about why it's important to put the baby to the breast early, and respond to those feeding cues early for all the reasons that we know in this field. But I'll also teach her that, in doing that, she is teaching her baby to trust her, right? So I'll use something like this. It's called the trust cycle. So your baby has a need, right? He has a need. He either needs to eat, he needs to be changed, he might be too warm or too cold. There's some need that your baby has. So the baby's going to show us that he has a need by signaling discomfort in some way. We can bring feeding cues into this, right? Other nonverbal communication, body language. So he signals discomfort. Mom notices that, so mom goes to the baby and satisfies his need in whatever it was that he needed. And then the baby stops that uncomfortable behavior and shows that he's comfortable, signals comfort, right? His body language relaxes. Those tight arms and legs kind of fall to, loosen up. He's no longer rooting around. He signals comfort. And then security, trust, and love is built. That baby knows that he can trust his mother, right? So if we continually complete the trust cycle effectively and quickly and appropriately, our babies will learn to trust that mom will be there when they need something. And therefore, most likely you'll have a less fussy, less anxious baby, and hopefully that will grow into a less anxious, less fussy toddler. So it's really healthy for the baby's brain development, emotional health. Okay? So, that's one way that I'll use the dance tool to notice what it is that my mom needs help with, and then to bring her a lesson that makes my visit with her relevant and useful. Okay? We do have something called dance cards. So what they have is they have the different realms that we're assessing at the top, and then the little areas of assessment, and here's responsiveness. And so in responsiveness, it gives us on one side what the parent is asking. So the parent's saying, how do I show my child that I'm there for him or her? All right, so that's the mom's question in responsiveness area. And then the baby is saying, it makes me feel safe when I feel like you're there for me. I like it when you let me lead and you follow along. So when teaching these points off these cards, we often use props like dolls or stuffed animals. And we actually talk through that doll or that stuffed animal. And it sounds weird to explain that to somebody, talking through a doll or talking through a stuffed animal, but it is actually very effective. And I've never, in the whole 3 years I've been doing this, had any mom respond as if it was weird of me to be doing that. In fact, when I talk through her own baby, hold her baby, and use a different voice to say what that baby may be thinking, moms often respond with, really? Oh, that's how she feels? Wow. Oh, I didn't know that. It gets to them. It's really effective. So we'll use different props in our teaching. Yeah, so that's an example of my teaching. I love to teach. It's what gives me energy, and it gives back to me when I'm feeling drained from stressful situations in the homes. I love to have a topic that I feel that I know, and that's relevant to what the mom needs. And one thing that I do excel at, I've been told through evaluations, is that I really excel at changing my pace and my content and my delivery method depending on the audience that I'm teaching to. So I have a wide range of learners, as I said, and I love to adjust how I teach to meet the needs of those learners. Okay? I hope that's what you're looking for. If not, please let me know and I can send something else. I didn't have any breastfeeding classes scheduled this month at all. June is kind of a dry spell, so I decided to do this. I hope it's what you're looking for. Okay, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. It's beautiful here in Pennsylvania today. I hope you're having a relaxing and beautiful weekend as well. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.